What is up, guys? It's Wednesday, and that means it's paintball time. This week, paintball question time, 7-man X-ball, the 5.5 balls a second cap on electric guns and mechanical tournaments, and co-ed paintball teams. Owen Turner, I just listened to the Playing On podcast with Bart Yachimec, like you recommended. They talked about bringing back 7-man. What do you think? I don't feel like we're due for a 7-man revival. I feel like this 5-man X-ball format we're playing is pretty good as it is right now. I've always liked 7-man though. This 5-man stuff is much more quicker and faster and like banging into each other. When the 7-man stuff, you gotta kind of like finesse the victory. And I was definitely better at 7-man. Weirdly enough though, I do like that crashing and banging and like speed of 5-man. I don't know, I was like better at 7-man, but like the 5-man X-ball, I don't know. So when I answer any of these questions, or when I think about paintball in general, I typically always think of like the newer players, people that have been playing a couple years, maybe you're brand new to paintball. Maybe that's from like working at stores and like owning a paintball store forever. But I do think that the 5-man format is gonna be a little bit easier to obtain than it is the 7-man stuff. And most of the guys that are playing this 5-man format come from 3-man. So it's a lot easier just to go find 2 guys than it is to find 4 to play 7-man. I think about all the local Division 5 teams or Division 4 teams, and a lot of them only have 5 players. So think about if they had to add 2 people. Could they do it? Could they find the people? Are there enough people to facilitate a lot of paintball teams? Maybe they find those guys, maybe they don't. And then maybe they quit. Maybe. I think that's obvious when we look at like the local tournament scene in like the early 2000s to mid 2000s. Most of it was all 5-man. There was very few 7-man stuff. Most of those 7-man teams were like dedicated to the NPPL. And there's definitely way more local teams then and now than there are like teams traveling to like the NPPL or currently the NXL. Let's just say the NXL switches to 7-man. The cost of operating the league would also increase. I mean, you need more land, more bunkers, more refs, more staff, just more in general to be able to run the league. And I do think we would see a reduction in teams because there's still a lot of teams in the NXL that only bring 5 guys. And at the current state, there is no way we could have 2 leagues. There are just not enough players. Even if there were, I don't know if it's that good of an idea. I think it's good to have like only 5-man X-ball because it gives players like a clear line of progression. So if you want to go pro, you play 5-man. Not like you play 7-man sometimes and like 5-man sometimes. I think it's good and I think we should stick with 5-man. So I don't think switching to 7-man is a good idea. It's not a good idea internationally, nationally, or locally for sure. In that podcast, they kind of briefly touched on it, but nothing really led me to believe that Bart was like, yep, we're switching to 7-man in 2 years. It was kind of just like, yeah, 7-man was fun. And I think Carl was just like wishing it was the good old days a little bit more than anything else. Austin Maddox asks, do you think the 5.5 balls a second cap on electronics at mechanical events is too slow? Too fast? Shouldn't be allowed at all? I want to hear opinions. The first time I shot an electronic paintball gun capped at 5.5 balls a second, it was awful. But maybe not awful, baffling, bizarre. That whole shooting an electric gun at 5.5 balls a second really reminds me of when the PSP tried that true semi thing in 2015. You kind of like shoot and like walk the trigger and nothing really happens just because the gun won't shoot faster than 5.5 balls a second. Like say you see a guy running by real fast and you're not shooting and you're sitting there and you're like, and you go to shoot real quick and like want to shoot 4 shots at the guy. The gun only shoots twice, so you're like going to shoot and like nothing happens. It's bizarre. I do think electric guns should be allowed at mechanical tournaments though. One of the biggest problems is that like all the people that want to play tournaments or tournament players don't really have mechanical guns. They just have like these high-end electronic ones. Allowing electronic guns just lets the tournament reach more people and let more people play in the event. People already complain enough about how expensive paintball is. Imagine going to your friend and being like, hey, let's play a 10-man tournament. And oh yeah, you gotta buy a gun just to play this one tournament. I know if that was the case and I like had to purchase a mechanical gun to play an event, I'm not doing it. I do think that raising the rate of fire to like 6.5 or 7 for the electronic guns would be a little bit nicer because that 5.5 is kind of annoying, but then again it is like mechanical only, so maybe keeping a low rate of fire on the electronic guns would like encourage people to like get autocockers, like mags, enemies, hey, or a GTEX or GMech. The whole point of these mech tournaments or 10-man events is really to just like harken back to the good old days when guns were slower and fields were bigger. So I think having a cap on the electronic guns and maybe like encouraging the use of mechanical stuff is good in that case. Josh Liska asks, do you ever think there will be co-ed paintball teams? Me and my fiance love the sport and would like to play tournaments together. You can right now, it's 2018 and gender rules no longer apply. Now you guys can play whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. Well, you can't, but she can. The only thing you can't play is when they have women's only tournaments. Gender rules do apply there. I think the last women's only tournament was 2017 in the Millennium Series when they had the Women's World Cup. They only had 5 teams though, but it's better than 2, I guess. There aren't any like specific co-ed teams or tournament series though. There's just not enough women actually playing paintball at this point. I know like 15 women that play though. Some of them play every single weekend and then play like Division 2 or higher even. They're really good and they play with the guys all the time. And then I know a couple that like, I don't know, play every, couple months or something like that. But that's what's great about paintball. It doesn't really matter. You could be 10 years old, 90, short, tall, skinny, fat, lopsided, it doesn't really matter. Anyone can do it. It doesn't have to be co-ed. Just make a paintball team and go for it. Guys, that's paintball question time. Use this hashtag right there. Ask your question, and if I like it, we'll answer it on Paintball Question Time. Check out more right there.